Did you miss us on Thursdays? Because we sure miss talking to you. It's been a while, hasn't it? Chuck Freeby, Bob Nagel, welcome to Facebook Live at the WHME 46 Sports pages. We get you ready for the opening night of our 30th season of the high school football game of the week. When you started this 30 years ago with Marv Wood doing basketball, did you envision still doing it 30 years later?
You know what's been so great is the memories. I think about the interviews we've done with student athletes. I think about the moments that we've had, and for a lot of kids, especially like in basketball, a 5'10" forward isn't going to play at the next level, but he can have himself a night, and we capture those memories. And I tell you what, we're looking forward to another great year. The problem I have is what happened to June and July. If you've seen it, call us.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've got a great slate of games tomorrow night to start things off with. It seems like week one always has a number of terrific matchups, and we start you off with a top 10 matchup as Penn goes over to Valparaiso to take on the Vikings. Now, the Kingsmen are 6th in 6A. Valpo is 7th in 5A. Penn won the regular season game last year. Valpo got him back in the regional. You see Ron Paulus Jr., he's getting all kinds of SEC offers in the summer. The question I have about this Penn team, Bob, has to do with their offensive line because they're facing a Valpo defense tomorrow night with 2 Division I prospects.
And I tell you what, if you can't run the ball, it's really tough to pass it. Even though Paulus has a strong arm, he's a big kid, he's gotten himself in really good shape. I think he's ready to go for the season, but again, that offensive line, the thing about Penn is they teach a system. Guys have been doing this since middle school, so they should be able to make that adjustment. I'm a little concerned about Penn's defense in that they don't have a lot of Division I candidates, but they graduated 8 seniors last year. That's going to happen.
So remember, Valpo has gone down to 5A this year, but these two teams probably the favorites in their respective conferences, the NIC and the Duneland. So that's Penn at Valpo tomorrow night. Now, for many years, we did a State Road 19 rivalry between Northwood and Jimtown as our opening game. Not doing the game this year, but that doesn't mean they're not playing. And Northwood has dominated this series over recent years. They've won 6 in a row. But Nate Andrews, well, he's got one big gaping hole to fill by the name of Bronson Yoder. And it doesn't mean that they're bereft of talent over there in Napanee. They've got some speed, especially on offense. You look at Newcomer and Jaden Miller and Vashawn Malone. You saw the Panthers scrimmage last week. What did you think?
One of the things you see is quickness and depth. They've got a lot of really good athletes on this team. Now, again, you don't have a Bronson Yoder, a guy that you could count on 3rd and 12 or something to come up with a big play, but you got a lot of good athletes. And I think the offensive line, talking to Booney Booker, their offensive line coach and coordinator now, he was really impressed with how they're doing. And they're also very impressive on defense in that quickness, and they got guys that are willing to stick you.
They will be taking on a Jimtown team that features a third-year starter and quarterback in Clay Campbell, the coach's son. They also have, I believe, 15 seniors, and this is a team that's hungry. They've had 2 straight 500 seasons. They're a little bit embarrassed about being knocked out of the first round of the playoffs last year. They got a chip on their shoulder over there in Boggo Township.
Yeah, Knox beat them last year in the playoffs. One of the things that I can go back and remember about this class, when Clay Campbell was a part of this class, and they were 7th and 8th graders. Boy, wait till these guys get together. Wait till their senior year at Jimtown. They're going to be special. It's a good chance for them to do that.
It's here, it's now, and the time to start is tomorrow night against Northwood. How about a game over at TCU School Field tomorrow night? Good NLC-NIC matchup as Northridge takes on Adams. Now, Northridge will have a different look this year for Tom Wogelman's team, especially at quarterback. Oliver Eveler gets the helm. That young man, Cade Lacey, will be doing a lot of running for the Raiders. So offensively, they feel pretty comfortable. It's a young and inexperienced defense that has to take on this Adams team with Ira Armstead, the Virginia recruit, at quarterback.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see because Northridge has changed their culture over the last, I can't believe it's 7 years for Tom Wogelman already, but they've come to play every night. They've got some good talent. Evelor came in last year in a tough situation, did a good job filling in for the injured quarterback. So I think Northridge is going to show up and be ready to play. But stopping Adams, they've got a prolific passing game and some pretty good running backs.
You know, the question for Adams is defense. I mean, last year they gave up almost 30 points a game. they have to find a way to give some better support because Armstead can throw the ball all over the lot. I saw him at School Field last week against John Glenn in the scrimmage. He's got a powerful arm, but if you can get some pressure on him and force him to roll out a little bit to his right, that could be a change. And then again, the Eagles' running game, too, comes into question. So should be a good matchup Friday night at TCU School Field. Just about a mile away from there is Father Blythe Field, where the St. Joe Indians play. Concord comes over for a visit to take on Brian Witten's tribe. Now, that young man, Ashton Ruskowski, is gone to Valparaiso University. So the question is, who's going to be at the quarterback for the St. Joe Indians? Whoever it is, they're going to hand off to number 2, John Driscoll, a heck of a lot.
Well, and I would too, but the thing about Concord is they have a lot of known commodities. Kane at quarterback is a veteran. They've got some good defensive players. They got a little bit of size in that defensive line. So St. Joe's got a lot of question marks, but at the same time, they've got a lot of great athletes and a good program. So we'll see what happens there, but St. Joe is going to have to ride the back of that young man, John Driscoll.
Both of these teams a little bit like Bob Seeger, working on mysteries without any clues. Well, the clues start coming in tomorrow night. We'll see what happens in that one. A couple of teams separated by just 11 miles, but they haven't played each other in about 5 years. LaVille ventures over to venerable Don Bungie Field to take on the Bremen Lions. The LaVille Lancers are loaded on offense. They've got Aiden Doyle. They got a young man by the name of Colby Watts at running back. Bremen, a lot of these guys you're seeing in the highlights, bye-bye, they're gone. They've graduated, and Jordan Leaper's got all kinds of holes to fill.
He does, and it was a very good team last year. They were a team that we thought might get downstate, might get a chance to play for a state championship. But when you graduate that many top players from a smaller school, Bremen represented themselves very well. I like the way Jordan Leaper coaches. I think they'll be ready to play, but again, LaVille has had great success under Will Haushauser.
6 straight winning seasons they've had at LaVille. Not known as a football school until he got there, and all of a sudden they're having success. Keep an eye on a young man by the name of Ethan Nunemaker, a quarterback for Bremen, only a sophomore. Might be somebody who can emerge over the next couple of years and make a name for himself. LaPorte County has some great rivalries. Now, I think everybody agrees the best team in LaPorte County this year is Michigan City. But New Prairie and LaPorte are going to have a haymaker on Friday night. Now, New Prairie, we know all about them on offense. Loaded in front of Chase Ketterer. There's the young man who can throw it, he can run it, he can do all kinds of things. One of the top players in the state. Big offensive tackles. They got a kid named Chris Mays at running back who can run it. But this defense, Bob, a lot of those guys, bye-bye. And the front 7 of the Cougars, very young, very small. Can they stop Jeremy Lowry, the new coach, and the Slicer offense?
Well, that's going to be a thing that's going to be tough for LaPorte, coming in with the new system and a lot of new players. And New Prairie beat them last year in the season opener. So we'll see what happens with the Cougars. But we think the Cougars can compete not only in this game, but in that North Division of the NIC.
Ooh, that's a meat grinder.
That is a meat grinder. But Chase Ketterer is getting some looks, and they're talking about maybe even a preferred walk-on status at Notre Dame. So we'll see. But we know that Mays is a quality back, and the big boys up front are corn-fed. So this will be a real good offensive team for New Prairie. And don't forget their kicker.
I know all about the kicker. Now, LaPorte, Jeremy Lowry, new coach, has established a new culture. They run the flex bone, 3-5 defense, going to be a little bit different look than what you Slicer fans have seen. Give him some time. He'll do a good job. A young man who used to play at Penn and then coached at Paoli. All right, our game tomorrow night. You and I were both there Tuesday. The buzz in the city with a heart is palpable because it is the last regular season game between Elkhart Memorial and Elkhart Central. Blue Blazers dominated last year. They won 38-7. Bob, I don't think they're going to dominate this year because I saw Memorial in their scrimmage and they look improved.
Well, the number one key for Scott Shaw was avoid the turnovers. Last year was a big factor in that game. Elkhart Central is going to come after you. They're going to stick you. They've got some offensive weapons themselves. Chandler's a good quarterback, throws the ball extremely well, and can run it. But this is going to be everybody trying to make history, and Scott Shaw brought that up too. He said, you know, they're going to write about this, and there's going to be stuff you can read for years to come. How'd you do in the last matchup between Elkhart Central and Elkhart Memorial? We're making history on Friday night.
Mark Brownlee, that's the young man to keep an eye on for Elkhart Central. He's approaching 3,000 yards in his rushing career. There's only a couple of backs in Elkhart who have ever done that. Meanwhile, Elkhart Memorial, 3-year starter and Tyler Lehner at quarterback. They've got some speed with Derek Woods Jr. They've got other weapons, Darjon Lewis. This should be a fun one at Rice Field. Big crowd expected. They've had a pre-sale that exceeds what they normally sell for a regular season game. Can't wait for this one, and yet we have to for about 30 hours. We'll join you live on Facebook right here on this page. Friday night at 7, you can watch the game or stay up late, go to your game, come home, and do what you've been doing for 30 years. Watch the 46 game of the week Friday night at 11 and Saturday morning at 9.
A lot going on for week 1.
Yeah, but that's what makes it fun. We can hardly wait to have you come join us. We'll see you from Rice Field tomorrow night. For my broadcast partner, Bob Nagel, Chuck Freeby, thanks for joining us on Facebook Live.